Santimanta. Let us all stand up for the Santimanta.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Asato ma Satgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
I request Professor Udar, the Faculty Advisor of BSc IIT Madras, to give a brief description about BSc.
Thanks. Good evening and namaskar to everyone assembled over here. It is both my pleasure and honor to welcome you to this first event of the semester for the BSc. My name is Vivekananda Girijana. I am a faculty in the Department of Electrical Engineering. It's a small gathering here, so I can be informal. So BSc is a student-led organization driven almost entirely by the enthusiasm of students. It was started almost 25 years ago. We are celebrating 25 years this year from 1997. And as you've seen in the motto over here, the motto of BSc is very simple: nation building through character building. Right? So the focus of BSc is character building. Everything else follows from that. So some of the things that BSc is interested in, as I mentioned, is trying to bring out certain values which are of use not just to students but to the other members of the campus community. Because it would not be inaccurate to say that almost everyone who has entered IIT has gone through a lot of competition and struggle to reach here. And we are surrounded by a very competitive environment. And in such a competitive environment, often you find people cutting corners, not doing the most ethical things. So the objective of BSc is to bring out from our ancient Indian wisdom certain ideals in front of all of us, put in simple language. The goal is not to become a scholar in Sanskrit or anything like that. It is simple ideas and values to lead a honest and good life and contribute towards nation development. We are very fortunate to be associated with the Ramakrishna Mutt, and we have a spiritual mentor of the BSc, who is Swami Vivekananda, who unfortunately could not be here due to a sudden illness that he has. He's currently visiting a doctor right now, but he is here on all other events. He is very accessible and interactive, so he'll be taking various sessions of the BSc as we go along to get a view of ancient Indian wisdom from his point of view. I want to also mention a very nice development which happened over the weekend. We have a Center for Indian Knowledge Systems which was inaugurated in the Humanities Department on Saturday, which is going to cover various things such as ancient Indian mathematics, astronomy, sculpture, dance, various things which of Indian knowledge which for a long time us Indians have been either apologetic or ignorant about. So that is the sort of energy of this campus and of the country right now. Anything else that I would like to share? So BSc, a common question that comes is, how does one become a member? So there is no membership of BSc. All events are open to everyone. Just look out for either an email or a flyer and just come to the events. As sort of is clear from what I said earlier, the forum stays a non-political forum, and we're interested in very core issues of character development and in the light of ancient Indian wisdom. So the sort of vision, the starting vision, you can say, of the study circle came from Swami Vivekananda, who saw the youth of India being awakened and intelligent, and then going out into the world and leading to its development. So in this context, we are again very fortunate to have today's speaker, Dr. Sudarshan, who is going to show how his life has led to a lot of changes in the lives of other people, what inspired him, what he is doing, and so on and so forth. I will not do his talk. And with this, I hand it over for the next set of events. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for sharing your thoughts about BSc. We believe that with your kind support and vision, BSc will reach a great height. Without further any delay, I'd like to take the opportunity to call our chief guest, Dr. E. Sudarshan ji, to the stage. Now I shall take the privilege to introduce today's speaker briefly. In year 1973, he served Ramakrishna Mission Centers from 1975 to 79. He started Vivekananda Girijana Kalyana Kendra for his integrated development of the tribals in Chamarajanagar district of Karnataka in 1980. He also founded an Honorary Secretary of Karuna Trust, which is dedicated to the rural development in state of Karnataka and Arunachal Pradesh. He is also recipient of Livelihood Award, Padma Shri Award and Rajyotsava awards.
It's a great pleasure to be with you this evening. I have come here, I have made a discovery that there is an inner source of joy, eternal fountain bubbling up within me. It happened, some sort of whatever you want to call it, awakening. And I want to share that joy with you, that's all. I have not come for anything else. But I will share how that happened, and I am sure all of you can also access that eternal source of what Swamiji called the potential divinity within through social entrepreneurship. I want to briefly tell what my life and my work are not different. That's why I am combining my life story and also the work which I am doing. They are not compartmentalized. I have no privacy. My life is my work. I was born in a cowshed. My mother had a choice to go to a hospital and deliver, but in the rural area it was a village. So village, usually the tradition is that they will not allow delivery to happen inside the house. They usually put them outside. And also the cowshed, the hay is there, which is a disposable blanket for all the blood stains and all of that. So I was delivered there. Maybe that's why I have better immunity than other people who are born in hospitals. I am proud that I was born in a cowshed. I will tell you why. Because that today I am able to provide safe deliveries for 10,000 mothers every year. So in the same village I have established a primary health center where we do safe deliveries. Then I came from the village to Bangalore in a bullock cart, I still remember, with my grandfather. And then studied in a Kannada medium school. And then when I was 12 years old, I went with my father to a village, my aunt's place. And he was just 42 years and I was 12 years. Literally died on my lap without medical aid. There was no doctor available. I ran, there was a quack who could not do much. So that day I made a decision that I will become a doctor, and the rest of my life I didn't want to helplessly watch somebody, your own known person or unknown person dying in front of you. So that decision made me to become a doctor, and so I studied for that. I had good marks in pre-university, but in my village school they gave me a double promotion from second to fourth. We had that concept of double promotion. If you are a good student, they will jump one standard. So I didn't study third standard. But in the medical school, I had to complete 16 years by October 30th. But I was completing it on December 30th. They said, we can't allow you to join this year. Better luck next year. So I worked in a floor mill. My mother had to bring up 5 children. Getting part of the house rent was the only source. So I worked in a floor mill. And 3 months' salary was my entrance fees to Bangalore Medical College. So I earned that money, paid the entrance fees and studied medicine. And that was also the time when one of my friends took me to Ramakrishna Ashram in Bangalore. And that's when I read Vivekananda. Of course, later on I also studied Gandhiji. Both of them had tremendous influence. Of course, in the Ramakrishna mission also, I had several monks who influenced me. But one particular monk, I will be talking more about all my learnings, knowledge, whatever spiritual knowledge and experience I have is because of his grace. I call him a guru, but he doesn't accept me as a guru. So like a Ekaluya, I worship him, but he doesn't accept me. So, but he is a wonderful person. His life, a very, very unique life, it influenced me tremendously. So I oriented my medical education to work in very remote areas and take the healthcare to places where it is not reached. So this background, I will tell you how overall I got into the healthcare. See, the problem when I was a medical student, what I saw was this equity in healthcare was lacking. We have PET scans, MRIs. Today, Swamiji is also going to MRI. We do heart transplants, liver transplants, all sophisticated, whatever is happening in Europe or America, we are doing it here. And I am proud of it. I am not. But the problem is, only privileged people get access to this great medicine which we are able to do it. There are very remote areas where basic primary health care is not available. A simple microscope laboratory facilities can diagnose hookworm or any of those infections, anemia, but we are unable to treat. People die even today with 2 grams, 3 grams hemoglobin. This is the other side of the India. Especially the health of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes is very bad. And the poor people also, out-of-pocket expenditure, though it's supposed to be free, but there are a lot of expenditures. 70% is most of it is spent on drugs and diagnostics, so out-of-pocket expenditure. So poor cannot afford the health system we have. This is the problem. And that's because we are not putting enough financing enough. We were financing only 0.9% of GDP. It has gone up to 1.4 with the present government. But still, the Manmohan Singh had promised 2 to 3% of GDP will be spent on health, and it is still to be realized. And most of this spending is by the public sector is only 1/3, and 2/3 is the private sector. I am not against private sector, but unfortunately 2/3 with the private sector, the poor have no access to the private sector. That's a problem. So poor can access only the 1/3 of the public sector healthcare. And per capita public health spending is very, very less. Usually it is 100 times more in Europe and America. We spend very little. I do primary health care. We spend as less as 200 rupees per person. Quality of health care is also very poor. I don't have to tell. I'll be talking more about it when I got into the health system to reform the health system in Karnataka. The standards are very low. Corruption. You know, the Medical Council of India, which has to regulate the doctors, he was caught when he was accepting 2 crores bribe for sanctioning a medical college. And quality of drugs is also a big problem. So my aim when I joined medical college was to reach the healthcare to the unreached. So I took up unreached areas, started in Veerappan's territory in VR Hills. All of you know about Veerappan? Of course, he's also very popular in Tamil Nadu. He was half Tamilian, half Karnataka one. And we also work in Naxalite areas in Odisha. And in the northeast, we have a peculiar problem called insurgency. Insurgency is a type of people who want to liberate themselves motivated by various factors. I will not go into those details, but we work in all these difficult areas, remote, hilly, tribal areas. We still manage primary health care in where there is no electricity, no telephone connectivity, bad roads, especially in Arunachal Pradesh and other northeastern districts, where both the public and private are not available. So with this idea, Of course, I have to tell that after my graduation, because of my close contact with the mission, and Swamiji's inspiration, I had a conflict whether I should become a monk and serve, or I should work independently. Anyway, I tried the costly experiment and became a brahmachari as a novice. I worked in the Ramakrishna mission as a brahmachari for 5 years in Bangalore also, in Mayavati, where Vivekananda started his first Advaita ashram there. So I also worked there. Then, with the president's permission at that time, Swami Vivekananda, I came to BRS and started this Vivekananda Girijana Kalyana Kendra. Mainly the BRS is a junction of Eastern and Western Ghats, and the people living there are called Soligas. They're called children of bamboo. They belong to the Vedoid group. They used to do shifting, cultivation, food gathering and hunting, but they lived in harmony with nature. We have a lot of these megalithic burial sites in BR Hills, which shows that people were living there 5000 to 800 BC, somewhere between that, and this is the demarcation, and they used to bury, and there's a slab outside and a hole where they used to beat annually. So there are more than 600, 700 megalithic burial sites there. So tribal culture is basically living in harmony with nature. They don't have distinction between secular and sacred. Take what you need, basic needs, and give back to nature. They are more into present moment awareness, and they have better integration of head and heart. This is what I have understood of the tribal culture. So my own concept of tribal development, I didn't go with fixed ideas. I had the passion of Swamiji, that the mantra which I received, they are only who live for others, rest are more dead than alive. So with that passion I started with the Security Health Services, saving them from snake bite cases, and mauling by bears was quite common. I used to stitch them. Other pneumonias, seasonal pneumonias, tuberculosis, all of them, I was very useful. So I started with the curative health services. Then I found community health is also important. There was a big epidemic. Then I also found I had no pills for poverty, so community development became important. The land rights issue. People had lost their land, so I had to fight for the land rights. Then we were within the biological hotspots, biodiversity hotspots, so the concept of sustainable development. So now it gradually evolved from curative health to community development to sustainable development. I didn't live there. I lived in a hut with the tribal people for almost 15 years. It was a wonderful experience. What I have understood for people who want to venture into tribal development, we should live with the people, understand their strengths. Understanding their strengths is very important. So their strengths, what are their strengths? We should have the ability to learn about their traditional knowledge, ability to learn from their strengths, build on their strengths, not on their weaknesses. We often condemn and say they are bad, they don't have hygiene, they don't have culture, and we want to give them. That is wrong. So also respect diversity, and there's no need to bring them to the so-called national mainstream. This is very, very important. We don't want to, they have national bringing them to mainstream. Some of the people think tribals can be the honor assignment. Some of the other people talk like that. I don't say that. I tell them they are the Rigvedic rishis. They lived in harmony. I learned the Rigvedic rishi, how he lives from the Soliga tribal people. The traditional knowledge system, we also studied the forest knowledge, the traditional health practices, traditional agriculture, and tried to use them. And my first delivery, I just want to, she had a complication, prolonged labor, so I put up Bangalore Medical College put up a obstetric table, and it was in a thatch shed, but still I had an obstetric table. So I wanted her to lie down on the obstetric table so that I can conduct the delivery. But she refused to lie down on my table. So then I had to take the help of the traditional birth attendant. So we delivered that day in the corner of that delivery room. I thought it was a superstition, maybe I will convince her someday to lie down on my obstetric table. But she is educated. Now we have found enough of the evidence to show that the squatting posture is the ideal posture for mother to deliver. The gravity helps, the pelvic muscles can contract better, and that's why they do it. So we have 2 labor rooms. First we try with the traditional method with the rope hanging, and most of the 90% of the deliveries happen with the traditional squatting posture. Only if there are some complications we use the obstetric table. So why did we design this flat obstetric table? It's more convenient for the doctors and nurses. Conducting delivery in squatting posture, we get back pain. So it is not the patient-oriented healthcare, it is the doctor and nurses' convenience. So now people are designing squatting posture tables rather than the flat obstetric tables. So we do comprehensive healthcare. So we also integrated traditional tribal health. This is our hospital, the mobile unit. We also use herbal medicines. This was the first batch of tribal girls whom I trained them as auxiliary nurse midwives, doing health education. I'll be going fast, I have too many slides. So this copy of this presentation will be available. Those who want details can learn from that. So I also found there was no education, there was no school, they were all roaming around. So evening I started teaching some of those children, and in 1981 I started with 6 children in a tribal hut, and 4 of them have become postgraduates. And Jadia is now the professor in Forestry College. Latest is professor, this is old slide. And he is also the president of VGKK. So we have many educated people. We invested quite a lot on health and education, and we are reaping the results. So in the education, we have made several innovations, experiential learnings, life skill education. When computers were brought in, because the local politicians would come and say, do they have the same IQ as others? They were doubting their IQ also. So once they see they are also handling computer, they don't ask. At least for that demystification, are also using the computers to know more about the ecosystem or more about the nature around them rather than for other things. Social work, personality development, environmental education. So we also have women's self-help groups. This is the honey being processed, skill development. We have a technology resource center for organic farming and developing them. We also started organizing the community, Soligas centers, empowering the tribals to organize themselves. I have to tell about Abdul Kalam. He is a special friend. When he was in DRDO, he called me, and this is the exact words he said. One of the spiritual person has told me, find 100 Punyatmas who can transform the country, and I will search for them. I visited a few, and I heard about your name when I am coming there. So he came to BRHs as a DRDO head at that time, and then spent the whole day with us, and has been a source of inspiration. And then when he found another Punyatma, he would call me also, and I would go around with him to discover those 100 Punyatmas. And later on, when he became the President of India, we had to celebrate 25th anniversary. I was a little hesitant whether will he remember and come. So we invited him. He came all the way, celebrated his birthday with the same tribal children, and spent the whole day with us. And he has been quoting my work in several forums, and a great source of inspiration. It's a wonderful man, great man. We have been depending on donations. My first budget in 1981, this is for the social entrepreneurs, the business people. I started with 5,000 rupees annual budget. And today, both VGKK and Karuna Trust together, we have reached 100 crores business. So again, I didn't want to depend, I had to beg money from the government, and the donors also very uncertain. So we wanted to make it self-reliant in terms of it for their healthcare and their education. So we have made a Gorapana ecotourism project. It's a tiger reserve now. So care of the land, care of the people, and care of the wildlife, all three should go together. and this is the model of the ecotourism project. So these are reception cottages, and we make about 35 lakhs to 40 lakhs profit, and that takes care of the health and education of the tribal people. So many people said you social workers cannot do business properly. So they were very reluctant to give this enterprise to me. But I showed that I can be a good businessman and make profit, but social entrepreneurship. All the profit should go to the local people and for their development, and not for the people who start. I also had the unique opportunity to work for anybody who has gone to Andaman Nicobar? Oh, good. You are from that area? Okay, but visited that. Good. So I had to plan for the Great Andamanis. These are the Great and Jarvas. These are Jarvas and they are the Great Andamanis. They are really primitive tribal people. Jarvas were about 200 people. We had to make a health policy for them. Very beautiful people, totally naked, and the Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore, has been working on deciphering their language. We've still not completely deciphered it. So sign language, and the challenge was what type of healthcare we need. So it was ultimate solution is leave them as they are. Only emergencies will manage, but try to understand how their traditional system takes care of them. Their blood pressure is 100 by 70. Fish eaters, fish catching is through arrows. They have very good nutrition. So what we need to is the mainland people, especially the destroyers of the forest, the sawmills, people are encroaching on their forest. If we leave them, that's a solution. First close down the main trunk road which divided the Andaman, passing through the Great Andaman, and only sea route should be allowed. That will take care of them. And similarly, Great Andamanis, their number had come down to 28 people. They live in what's called a straight island, and they had tried to build all sorts of modern medicine, including a nemesilide syrup, which is not good for, it's very hazardous. It's banned in Europe and America. In this country, we sell it. So we made a policy, what essential drugs. So he was also instrumental in making a healthcare system for that. There is Dr. Abhay Pan, he also works with tribals in Maharashtra. So I also worked with him as he was the chairperson, and we came out with the tribal health report, making concrete recommendations for the entire country on how to improve the healthcare of the tribal people. I was working in BRLs on the top of the hills. Then I found leprosy, which was not in the tribals, also getting recent infections. Then we found at the foothills, Elandur Taluka is hyper-endemic for leprosy. So first time I came here to Karigari in Vellore, we have a very good leprosy center, got trained, and I took up the challenge of leprosy work. And why I'm saying leprosy work is also instrumental. There are a lot of Christians who do leprosy work. Very few Hindus, in the sense, who do leprosy work. That's because the Saint Francis of Assisi, when he had the conversion, he went and kissed a leper, and that inspires many sisters, many people to go and work for the leprosy. But we don't have that tradition, except Mahatma Gandhi started it, and of course now Hindu Kushta Nivaran, some people have started, including now Ramakrishna Math also has a rehabilitation center. So I didn't any of those things. I took it up as a challenge, and we eliminated leprosy from the entire taluk. And the stigma was not there. Rehabilitated all of their families to look after them, and we could completely eliminate. Then I took up tuberculosis with the same methodology, which later on became a DOTS method of the World Bank, and successfully controlled tuberculosis. So when I was doing this, I found that I had to beg money for all these grants and struggle hard. So I met the health secretary and said, so we are doing your work, taxpayers' money you're spending. So why don't we have a partnership in the difficult areas where you're not working? They're spending, the government machinery takes the salaries and they don't do any work. They said, leave that and we will do it. So that's how the concept of public-private partnership came. We started in primary health care, and we do most of the work. And as I demand it as a right, because it's the taxpayers' money, and funds should come for this type of new innovations and reaching the healthcare to the outreach from the government itself. So that's one of our major sources, and we do it. We have several PPP models. But I also now partner with the CSR, as you know, corporate social responsibility, especially this concept of social entrepreneurship also has come. By the way, social entrepreneurship was first the word coined by Bill Drayton. I don't know how many of you know about it. He is the Ashoka Innovators for Public, and I am the second batch Ashoka Fellow. Bill Drayton himself came to VRMs and saw our work, and I was sponsored as was one of the fellows, Ashoka Fellow. Of course, I made one decision when I started my social work, but I will not accept any salary for my work, and I didn't want to charge patients also. I cannot accept money from the patient. So I used to get 500 rupees as fellowship, and that's how I managed my this thing. I'm continuing the same model, the Gandhian model of simple life. Because sometimes people make fun of Gandhian model of simplicity. It was very expensive. I'm trying to keep him simple lifestyle, but I am not that bad. I manage my life now with a retirement plan for 3,000 rupees pension. Now Bosch is helping us to run some of them. Cerner, we have electronic medical records, and Strides is another pharmaceutical company we do, and Dell also. Many CSR people are also involved. This is a primary health center which we started with the Strides version. So when I say comprehensive primary health care, it is preventive, promotive, curative, and rehabilitative. Very often we think primary health care is doing primary clinical care. Right? Actually, primary clinical care is very limited. What we need there is to take care of their immunization, take care of their the preventive measures are more important than the actual treatment. But there are a few tuberculosis, malaria, we have to take care of them also. So comprehensive primary care includes the mother and child health, addressing all communicable diseases or non-communicable diseases, including safe water, sanitation, nutrition, and livelihood. Now, we took up a few primary health centers, and this is one of the model primary health center where we have a 6-bedded hospital, pharmacy, labor room. And I had to show that our model will work. This is the first PHC which we took, Mumbai. As you can see, IMR was very high, the numbers very high, and it has reached the zero in some of the areas. And as I said, institutional deliveries were very low, 70%. Now we have reached 100% in safe deliveries. And we saw the infant mortality rate overall in all the PHCs. That was the first Mumbai PHC. It's far below the state average is 19, and we are on 3. Similarly, maternal mortality rate has come down. So I started in almost all the backward places in Karnataka. Then I went into outside Karnataka into the 7 states. So we are now in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu only in Rameshwaram we are working. Orissa, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur, Assam, and Rajasthan also we have started. We provide primary health care to 1.5 million people now. We have about 120 doctors working with us, about 1,000 nurses, excellent nurse midwives, technicians, pharmacists, about 3,000 what are called ASHA workers, the community level health workers. So I was invited by the Health Secretary in Arunachal Pradesh. I heard about this PPP model. Can you take up some primary health centers in challenging areas and do something? So I work with very peaceful, peace-loving people. Of course, Jaravas are sometimes can be, but Soligas are very peaceful. But here, either they have a dagger or a gun with them. In Arunachal tribals. So we started in 2000. A D group person, fully drunk, who handed over the PhD to me. No other staff was there. In such even today there is no electricity there, no telephone connectivity, but we have made it fully functional with the generator. Take up that type of very remote areas. That's how the pharmacy was. Now it is much better. Waka PhD, again this insurgency people, when we started this Waka PhD, the insurgency people, they said they collect 15% parallel tax, even collector pays 15%. So they wanted 15% from us. They said, I cannot give it, I will rather close down. Then they saw our work and they exempted us. So we are exempted from that 15% insurgency tax. Similarly, Veerappan also never harmed us. Of course, I didn't have direct interaction. That's another story I will tell some other time of the Veerappan story. And even Naxalites, we have no problem at all. So even they are, what I say, they also have goodness to see that if we are doing some good work, they will not come in the way. Probably they are trying to help us. Italian, again, a very remote PhD. This is the type of infrastructure. This is a husband and wife. The husband, he was a medical officer, wife is a laboratory technician. So I requested them. I myself stayed in this type of hut for 15 years. That's where authenticity becomes. So I told him, I stayed. I request you also to stay in this hut till we construct a better quarters. They live there and work. So there are people who are willing to commit themselves and work in remote areas. This is the Wolong PSC, border to China. This is the type of roads. The Brahmaputra River is very erratic. Every time we go, we pass through such roads. This is the Brahmaputra River. And in some of the PHCs, we have to use elephant during the rainy season to cross the rivers. Boats cannot cross them. So, elephant. These are the type of bridges our health workers have to use to reach to the very remote areas. This is the symbol of reaching the healthcare unreached. The village is cut off for about 6 to 8 weeks during the monsoons, rainy season. And there is only a ropeway which Army makes it. And this health worker, ANM, she uses that. She doesn't want to miss there is a weekly immunization schedule. She has to go there. She is carrying the vaccine carrier, taking the vaccine and immunizing children there. This is the real symbol of reaching the healthcare unreached. Then we have made several innovations in primary healthcare. It's a long list, but I will take you. Mostly we have done process innovations in healthcare delivery. We have appropriate technology. When I say appropriate technology, that's a challenge to IIT. Technology which is needed for the poor is more important, not the high-end, only rich people want it. And as you know, do you know about 90-10 divide? Most of the health research, 90% of the health research is done for the diseases of the rich. Only 10% goes to the diseases of the poor. So I am sure in other health technology also, it's only for the higher end, not for the poor people. So we need to take sides. So I want that commitment from you. Well, you as IIT people will work for that's the social entrepreneurship needed. Can we have a bias for working for the technology which will transform the poor people? It's more important. So we have done several ICT innovations. I will go through them, all of them quickly, but it's just a list of it. This is a simple 24 items for emergency, all emergencies in primary healthcare. For neonatal obstetric, snake bite, all emergencies can be managed. We also integrated some of the traditional herbs into primary healthcare. This is the Adathoda Vasaka, very well known. 2 leaves, 3 leaves boiled is much better than Benadryl, all your costly. The definition of those cough syrups is colorful bottle, sugary syrup, 3 to 5% alcohol, and few paisa worth of antihistamine. That's all it will have. Instead of that, and that will cost you 70 rupees. 2 leaves boiling will take care of it. That 70 rupees can be used for good nutrition. So non-communicable diseases also, now we are addressing them. Eye care and also the communication disorders also in primary health care. I have been fighting for the generic drugs. I made a policy for Karnataka government. As you know, now Janaushadhi has come, which only sells the generic drugs, and we also manage them. Rational drug use and essential drugs. Mental health is also a problem, not only in India, even in Western countries, mental health does not reach the poor. So what we have shown how mental health can be, even in primary health care, we can manage. I also had another passion, homeless mentally ill people roaming around in the streets. It's a common scene. So I wanted to do something for them. So we rescue the homeless people and then provide psychiatric treatment and then rehabilitate them back to their families. This is one of my, and also we have shown low-cost technologies, how to screen women for cancers. As you know, the most common cancer in women is the cervical cancer. And then the breast cancer and the oral cancers in men. These three are the major ones which we need to address. So the cervical cancer, there's a simple pap smear, but it costs about 400, it's a microscopic examination. Even that costs about 400 rupees. The second one is the HPV test, which is much better test. It's also about 1,000 rupees. So to screen everybody with that test is not affordable. As I said, the cost we get is 200 rupees per person per year. And with that we have to manage all this is not possible. So we invented what's called a VIA method. Is you apply simple 5% acetic acid, which will cost me about 25 paise. So you will have a clear vision, and with that you can diagnose with the algorithm. Now we are trying to computerize the technology, take a picture, and it will say whether it is precancerous or early detection of cancer, and then subject them to the pap smear, and only those VIA positives we subject them to pap smear and HPV. So that way we save the cost to a great extent. So with the additional cost of 1 rupee in the 200 rupees primary health care, we could screen all the people for cancers. Community planning and monitoring is very important. Involving people to manage their own health is very important. We are also involved in helping the government for the district health management. Water quality is also very important. Very often the doctor who works in the primary health care doesn't know that how many of the wells have fluoride problem, arsenic problem. So I made it a rule in Karnataka now that every primary health center should know all the bore wells and their quality of drinking water. And they should know whether there is fluoride or arsenic and then do the remedial measures. We have been working with another good friend of mine who also is a awardee, of the MaxSA awardee. We worked on solar. So we are using extensively solar energy. This is a solar refrigerator where there is no electricity. Again, your innovation should go in these areas where there are no appropriate formal things cannot work. These are the kits we have made, mother and child health kits, energy efficient labor room with solar power, sub-centers, mobile medical units for screening non-communicable diseases. E-photograph is in remote areas when you are conducting deliveries. Of course, there should be connectivity. In Arunachal Pradesh, only a few areas we can get it, but there is potential, and the Prime Minister has promised that we will soon have connectivity in those areas also, then it will work very well. So online, a specialist can guide, if the nurse is conducting delivery, we can guide them to manage whatever complications happen. Supply chain management for is a Logistimo, so again an IT tool for drug stockouts to see that there are no stockouts in the essential drugs. Integrated newborn care counter, this is a little bit of technology, my own passion for that. I don't have much engineering skills, except that I have an engineer brother who also studied in IIT Madras. With their help and all that, so there are separate equipment for radiant warmer for rising the temperature. There's one called phototherapy for if there is a jaundice, you need phototherapy, which is basically to a light which removes the bilirubin from the skin. So phototherapy unit and oxygen concentrator, suction of equipment and monitor. All these are separate. And if you buy all of them separately and put them together, it will be cost about 4 lakhs. We have made all this with 80,000 rupees. All this together. So it's most affordable healthcare unit. Smart glass, iris stick, which is a new technology which is coming again. I'm not going to those technologies, but I'm experimenting all those technologies which can help the poor in proper diagnosis and better care. Prior to spirometry, the COPD and with this and also on the COVID, this has been very useful. This is a mobile NCD project which goes around. The whole primary health centers are now called, very appropriately, they are called Health and Wellness Centers project. So we have been spearheading that. We also innovative learning centers under National Health Resource Center. This is the Teju Hospital. This is the outcome of I was called a social entrepreneur by the Indian Economic Forum. Later on, the World Economic Forum recognized me as the international short. I met 2 UBS Bank people in the Davos in the World Economic Forum. So they were impressed by my work and they gave 1 crore for the Teju Hospital in Arunachal Pradesh. So I built it and now it is running very well. This is Eye Hospital. Of course, Eye Hospital, you have the Arvind Eye Hospital model, which we also do it. This is in Rameshwaram. It's basically for the elderly care, which we are trying to do. 3 years we worked there. This is in Telangana also. We just started a primary care model. As I said, my passion was to help the poor students. I myself had so much. My stethoscope was gifted to me by one of my people. That's how I studied. Of course, I wanted to have the best stethoscope. It's called a Littman stethoscope. I could not get it till I passed out of Bangalore Medical College. But so now I am helping about 30 students every year, merit students or merit students, and we provide scholarship for the medical school also. The boat clinic was also my dream project in Assam. Anybody from Assam? Oh, okay, good. Brahmaputra River is a very large river, not like our South Indian rivers. Some places it's 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers width, and there are small islands where tribals live. So we made a boat clinic which will go to these tribal islands and provide them treatment. That's a boat, and these are the mobile medical unit in Nagaland we have started. Also we had the immunization program. In another the COVID-19 management in Arunachal Pradesh, the PIGO program in Arunachal Pradesh, various programs in various. MacArthur has also been very helpful. We are now making first time in the country. Electronic medical records. Electronic medical records are only in the hospitals. Now we are the first in the primary health care to make electronic medical records. So that is very well known. But we are also, each primary health center will have about 25,000 to 30,000 people. So we are making health records for all the 30,000 people. Even if they are not patients also, we will have their immunization status, their health status, all of them. So each individual ID and then providing the health records. We call it community health records. We responded for the COVID-19 challenge. Some people tried to, but I appealed to them. I myself went and started the clinic in some of the areas in the area. Though I was 70 and I was not supposed to do it, but I went there to expand, and now all of them are committed and they worked during the COVID period. We also did diagnostic testing. RT-PCR machine was supposed to be only in secondary and tertiary care. Even in primary health centers, we could test them. Home management, they called it home isolation, but we did home management. And one of the innovators came, we have a gadget which we put them. In the home management, the problem is if you have to check the PCO2, you have to get poor Ashas will get the contamination. That's a problem. So you put this gadget, it will automatically send all the PCO2 levels, their temperature, pulse rate, everything into the PHC. So we can monitor them without going and touching them. So vaccination, we have done 1.5 million people vaccination, continuous care, oxygen, lot of things we have done in the COVID-19 vaccination. We also at that time felt the need for even an ICU in primary health care. So we have one bedded ICU for emergencies during the COVID, COPD. And then we have a project called 10-bedded ICU. This is last 1 year we have been working on the in collaboration with e-governance. This is the Shrikant Nadamani who worked with for the Aadhaar card. So he is the heading the e-governance team. Vinod Khosla also is boss. He also all of them. So Vinod Khosla, Crypto Relief and HDFC funded this. We are creating 10-bedded ICUs at a cost of about 40 lakhs in more than 190 taluka hospitals and district hospitals in very remote areas with telemedicine facility. Now, we are the first to in South India to get NABH accreditation to the PHCs also. So we have standard operating procedures. This is a certificate of accreditation. We also collaboration with AFPI. We do primary healthcare fellowship program. Now the cost-wise, when we started PPP, government was very miserly. They said we have to convince the finance department we will give only 75% of what we are spending. So I had to accept that limitation and got 75%. Then they have increased to 90%. We are struggling to make it 100%. The other 10% we raise from our own donations and do it. But it is amazing that we do it at 250 rupees per person per year. That we provide mother and child health care, all communicable diseases, all non-communicable diseases management. Everything is immunization cost, everything. It includes drug cost, everything. Spend less than the government and better health outcomes. Because our demand a lot of money with the state governments. Working with the governments is a problem. It's a lot of corruption. Even in Karnataka, there was a lot of things. But Arunachal Pradesh, the health minister himself asked, shamelessly, he wanted kickbacks for the PPP. I said I cannot give it. And I was about to close down, but somebody took me to the chief minister of Arunachal Pradesh. I talked to him and he said, please carry on, don't worry about it. So till today, we have not paid a single pipeline, and still I get money from all that. That's why the soul force, the moral force is very important. If we are established that brand, initially if we also compromise with that standard, then they understand, they know Karnataka's people will not bribe us, we have to do it. And also within that system there are good people. Make use of those good people and see that. That's how we catch hold of a senior person who understands honesty and is not for that. And he says that our files are cleared and we get money. So it's working. And it needs tremendous courage to do. We raise almost 40 crores from the state governments, and doing it, getting it in time is very, very tough challenge. We also have corporate social responsibility funds. And of course, mysterious way, when I started my work in the early days, I had no money to pay the salaries. And when I was worried, all my grace had turned with all the stress of raising funds and all of that. I used to take a lot of those stress. But it was my mistake, not Swamiji's mistake. So I get a telegram, somebody has passed, he has a will, and he has made, I have not heard that person, but he has mentioned it in the name of Vivekananda Girijana Kalyana Kendra, and we get 10 lakhs of rupees at that time. So that type of time has come. That because Swamiji always, Swami Vivekananda said, men are wanted, money will come, everything else will come. If we have passionate people, rest will follow. That is 100% true, and the right people and right money will come to us. After working in this, I was also invited by the Karnataka government at that time to head the chairman of the task force to reform the health system in Karnataka. I was not a very big person at that time, but somehow it came. Maybe some this thing, so I took up the responsibility. So we were asked to look at the entire present position, and we also made a state health policy. And we identified 12 major issues of concern. You see corruption on the top of the list. And there are other things. Our health secretary was very upset. How can, it's a government report, how can you put corruption on the list? At least bring it down to 4th or 5th level. It will be easy for me to present it. But I said, this is a fact on research. I traveled all over the country, all over the state, and visited all the hospitals and primary health centers. So based on that, finally it was accepted. And then I found the corruption was not coming down. So we had again a wonderful opportunity. We have what's called a Lokayukta institution. I don't know how many of you have heard about it, Ombudsman. So I met the Lokayukta. It was a very progressive person, one Justice Venkatachala. I gave him a copy of my report. Said, why don't you help me? So I joined as vigilance director with him. I got chairman task force as a honorary worker, and here I had to be a paid servant to work in a judicial organization. So I was paid ₹1 salary. I worked for 4 years with them and tried to reform the entire corruption. It's an interesting story, but I will not. It's a little pessimistic also. Corruption at hospital level, we made the doctors pay back the bribe amounts to the poor patients. First time historically nobody had done. I mean, you got the ministers also in procurement of equipment, drugs, try to clean up, more transparency, accountability. It was a hard, difficult, very painful task, but if anybody had attempted that in Bihar, I would have been shot dead. But in Karnataka, it's a saner country. Of course, I used to have police escort, but nobody harmed me. But the backing is Swamiji's courage to tell the truth. Why people are not addressing? First of all, nobody wants to talk about corruption. Everybody knows there is corruption. They don't have the courage to speak it out and find remedies for it. So we need people with inspiration from Swamiji to tell the truth to them. And once we tell that, they will accept it. So this thing is good governance is very important in healthcare. If you have good governance, there will be quantum jump in health outcomes. It's not only by spending more money and drugs and technology will also help, but they will have only marginal. If there is a good governance, we can have quantum jump. We did have one very good bureaucrat called Madan Gopal, and in 4 years we could transform the whole healthcare system in Karnataka. So this is what I did, and also I had national level, I had the opportunity to work and contribute my little way. And of course the peak of it was also to work at the WHO and sit in the United Nations. Why I'm saying this is, first I identified with 10,000 tribal people in Bihar Hills, then expanded to the taluka and district population, then to the state, then to the entire country. But when I was working as chairman of task force, I handed the VGKK everything to other people, which allowed second line of leadership also to emerge. And I focused on this managing healthcare for all the poor people in Karnataka. So similarly, at the national level, I identified with 1.2 billion people and did it. And at international level, I identified all 7 crore people. So our heart also expands to that. Now, these are the 3 qualities needed for a social entrepreneur who as a leader wants to do social entrepreneurship. These are Swamiji's description. First is concern and empathy for the poor. Empathy, not compassion. That word compassion is not very palatable. Compassion means you are higher and somebody is lower and you show compassion to them. Empathy is you really become one with him. His suffering becomes your suffering. Swamiji wanted empathy. He never said have compassion on the poor. He wanted empathy. First feel their suffering as your own suffering. That is very important. Unfortunately, doctors are not taught empathy in medical schools. In fact, instead of that, I still remember my medicine professor. We do what's called palpation and percussion to examine an abdomen and all that. So when we do palpation, he was joking, he also palpate his purse and see how much money he has got. You can get from him. That's the attitude, not the empathy, Hippocratic picture, that empathy you see in him when he's touching the patient. That nobody talks about. How to touch the patient with empathy and identify with him. That's why in medical education I also have been instrumental to starting some of them. All the procedures we do, we are so bad. I've seen the stomach wash given for poison cases, how recklessly it's a ward boy who does. You stimulate them and make them vomit. All that is because we are so insensitive. That's why I feel all the doctors should also undergo those procedures of putting a rice tube, including putting a tube at the other end. All that they should have experienced. Then they will be careful in administering it to the others. Then shedding tears is not enough. We should have clear knowledge, understanding. That's where knowledge is very important. What is the... Why do people take to alcohol, drugs, and all bad habits? Because they want to, somewhere in unconscious, they want to destroy themselves. It's a hatred, self-hatred. Otherwise, when you're smoking, your one day of life is gone by smoking. Every cigarette reduces your lifespan. But still we smoke, till we take to drugs, till we overeat, obesity, all these bad habits is because of self-hatred. You don't have true love for your own body. Very important. I'm not saying we should be narcissistic about our body, but body is a gift given from nature. We should take it properly. We should take care of it properly. So self-hatred should go and self-love should come. And only when we have self-love, we can also love others. Love for others, unselfishness. I'm not talking of selfishness. Self-love is not selfishness. We should be very clear. Selfishness is mamakara. I want everything for myself. But unselfishness is giving back to others. So true self-love will automatically, that's what happened. I developed a true self-love. Same day my love for others increased tremendously. So we need to have both self-love and love for others. And that book, if you can, it's a small book, 80 pages, The Art of Loving. And the first page itself it says, we say, for analyze various loves, including romantic love, we say we fall in love. Fall has been used. We should stand in love. We should be fall in love. Why should we fall? Fall is really going down. We should stand. There should be maturity, better understanding. We should stand in love. So that's understanding the other person, not the sexual attraction and just ending with that romantic love and then disaster ultimately. It should be based on appreciating true love for each other, understanding each other, and it should be a mature love. So I'm not going to that. Please try to read that, and that will enable us to select the right type of partner if you want to have a partner. Maybe I should share that also. I also had wanted to become a monk or have this thing. But I wanted, there was an urge in me that I should love somebody intensely, where I should feel that I am ready to give my life for them. I experimented with a few, also I wanted to understand women properly. We have to integrate understanding women. Running away from women is not the solution. It's not brahmacharya. Understanding them with true love is very important. And that's what Tantric Sadhana is all about. But before that, two beings who come together, spiritual partners, as I call it. That person is also spiritual, and if they love each other with spiritual, as the spirituality as a goal, with true love, then they will all go, and then you are ready to give your life to the other person. But in my case, I discovered only one person I am very willing to give my life. That is my guru. I didn't find any woman who was giving me. Of course, some but living human beings I'm talking about. I found only the person who influenced. He is the one who has written this book, Youth Power and Power of Ideas. Wonderful book. All of you should read this and buy a copy and keep it with you. Great ideas, not just intellectual ideas. He has lived a life like that. And whatever I am today is because of his guidance and understanding. Now, transforming India through quality leadership, nation building. I feel it's a passion which you get from Swamiji. Swamiji's and inspired me that it was, I don't know where it came from. Maybe my father's death and all of them might have precipitated, but it happens. The IIM made a study of Bangalore, IIM Bangalore. They call it transformational leadership. The World Economic Forum calls it International Social Entrepreneurship Award and all of that. But for me, it's a madness. It's a madness injected by Swamiji, and I just did all this work. As I said, 1.5 million people's health care. We have averted, last year we averted 600 infant deaths in all our primary health care. So many emergencies through our ICUs, life savings are happening because of this passion which was there in me. And today what we need is living practitioners of values, and at least one thing I learned from Gandhi, the greatest message is to tell with courage my life and my work are same. So my life is itself what I can communicate to others. That's why I'm sharing my life with you. Now, from social entrepreneurship, I'm calling it spiritual entrepreneurship. So for that, I received a mantra has been repeating in me constantly. All the good work I've done is because of that power of that mantra. And my philosophy of life is well known as so long as billions live in hunger and poverty, I hold every man a traitor who has been educated at their expense, pays not least to them. Well known. What does it mean? The government taxpayers' money, the government, even IITs they spend, I don't know how much they spend in IITs for your education. But for medical students now they spend about nearly 50 to 60 lakhs on medical education, and that money comes from every taxpayer. Even the tribals who buy a matchstick for that commercial tax is what comes to the state governments as the tax, and that educates them. So society educates them. It's the knowledge of 400 years of Western medicine, of course Ayurveda from 2000 years, the teachers give us that knowledge which we get. So we have to give it back to the society. If we don't give it back, Swamiji uses the word traitor, no other small word. So I'm sure none of us want to be traitors. I didn't want to be a traitor. So I have great joy in giving, and I'm very happy that I'm not a traitor. Ultimately, my life, this is the famous Swamiji. Swamiji's greatest contribution is this concept of potential divinity of man. Nobody on earth has used this divinity. You could have said potentially Atman or God or whatever it is. And it's a powerful tool. And this famous teach yourselves, teach everyone his real nature. What is my real nature? I am the Atman. Call upon the sleeping soul, that's the Atman, and see how it awakes. Power will come, glory will come, goodness will come, purity will come. And everything that is excellent will come when the sleeping soul is roused to self-conscious activity. And this has happened in my life with humility, by Swamiji's grace. I feel all this, every word of it is true. So, as a social entrepreneur, my investment in all of that, the profit I am getting is what happens to the person who does social entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, people only talk about what changes I have brought in the society. By doing changes in the society, it's also transforming you. Nobody puts value to that. That's what you get. I don't have a big bank balance, but I have a rich spiritual capital within me, which gives me this joy, and share that joy with everybody. So you are immensely rich. I am immensely rich, much richer than my own classmates, some of them are cardiologists. I was with him last month. I was with him as a cardiologist. I have an oncologist who earned more than $1 million. They say you are leading much more meaningful life than us, and it's true. I could share some of my spiritual thoughts with them. So we need to invest it, and that's why I'm saying it's not only the social change we do. How many of you are familiar with Karl Marx? Okay, so there are a lot of understanding, but unique understanding of Karl Marx was the work we do should transform us, transform our own personality. It should enrich us. It should. So in a capitalist society, you work for the boss, not for enrichment of yourself, not for the transformation of your own personality. When you do labor for somebody else, so 5 days you work for them and earn some money, and 2 days weekends you want to spend it as you like. That's the concept. So we wanted that. That's why capitalist society is bad. The socialist is to be happen. But true enrichment, I don't believe in violence, and only that aspect of Karl Marx I agree. Rest of it I don't agree. I believe in non-violence, and Swamiji has wonderful. Swamiji also believes in Marxism to that level. But the spiritual potential, the transformation which can happen through work is what is called yoga, karma yoga. So the spiritual yoga, the karma yoga, by doing yajna, we can do that. So I will explain. I have that 10 minutes. Is that okay? Yeah, 5 minutes maybe. We heard of familiar with this Panchakoshas, Panchatmas. Taittiriya Upanishad talks about Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya Kosha. So the 5 koshas is what are concentric circles. The inner deepest spirit is with deeper, and they become deeper and smaller. So the matter is the entire cosmos, and then it's both at the individual level and the second discovery Swamiji made was the microcosm and the macrocosm. The microcosm is the individual. The individual and the microcosm, which surrounds the continuity of the. So what I showed earlier is a cross section of that. You take a cross section. We are familiar with cross sections in anatomy, so I'm using the same word. Then it will look like that. Macrocosm are built on the same plan. So now I'll start with Annamaya Kosha, just our physical matter, which I see my atoms, molecules. That's the physical atoms I have. I also have copper, iron, and all of that. Not only hydrogen and oxygen. So do you know where this copper in my body and iron in your bodies came from? Where did it come from?
Stars.
Earth. Huh? Where?
They are synthesized in stars.
Good, very good. It was in the supernovas. You know, earlier stars were only hydrogen and helium. So nature wanted to produce higher periodic table. It wanted to heal up. What's the way? You blow up the factory. Supernovas. You explode and then you get the higher elements. That's how it happened. So my iron, copper, I somehow when I meditate, I feel I have the memory of the supernovas in my body. It may be imagination, but it is true. My copper is made in the supernovas. I am so ancient. So supernovas is at least 13 billion years back. So you know the Big Bang started how many years back? 13.7 or 14, whatever it is. So there's a beautiful video on the YouTube. I saw that. When I saw that, it was like Virat Darshana for me. From Big Bang to present history. Very well done. Of course, it may not inspire others, but for me, I meditate on it, and the whole evolution is described in this Panchakosha. That's why I'm telling. So the Annamaya macrocosm, Annamaya Kosha is from Big Bang to the entire Earth. All that is happened in the macrocosm. So we have to establish equilibrium at each level. That's why I put these 2 arrows. Those who know biochemistry knows it often. The 2 arrows has to be balanced. The osmosis one. Okay, in chemistry it's very common. So establish harmony is very important. We take oxygen, give out carbon dioxide. So So whatever you want. So we are in dynamic relationship with the macrocosm at each level. Similarly, life. So first of all, what you say, in the laboratory, have you produced a life for a cell? Have you created a cell? Any idea? No biology students here. Okay. There is a myth that because of DNA, we know that DNA structure and all that, we know how to produce. We have not been able to produce a living thing from non-living things. It has to be, life comes from life only as of today. We may do it, I don't know. And in the plasma, suddenly the chance theory, certain constituents came together and the life emerged. I don't know. But according to Vedanta, according to Hindu tradition, there is what's called prana. Prana is the word for life. So prana is a different type of energy from the physical energy. So when molecules come together and then the life principle gets into it, it becomes a living thing. It's very important. So I see my pranamaya atman. Even now we have a prana, but we are unaware of it. We have a pranamaya atman. It's a type of subtle body we have, which controls all the organs, homeostasis, and we can regulate the breath. Is the way that's why pranayama is to control the breath, and then free flow of the prana is very important. A lot of research to be done on prana. Please, some of you take it up as a challenge. Only don't be obsessed with the quantum mechanics and all of that. There is something, the prana mechanics is much higher, and we need to work on one concept of prana and do much more research on that. And it can also cure many more illnesses and diseases. So they again varices to amphibians and mammals. And why I'm saying this, when I studied embryology, we also discovered when we are born in the mother's womb, we pass through all these stages. We were single cell from the parents, and then we become multicellular. And the brain development, especially first we have the fish type of brain, then the amphibian type of brain, then the mammalian brain comes up. So we have the reptilian brain also evolves into all that evolution we pass through, and then become the real human beings. The third one is the manomaya. So again, vital level, you have to take whatever the prana which you stay in the cosmic prana, and if you don't regulate it properly, you will have all the problems. Then the mind, the ideas, where do the ideas come from? There is a cosmic mind. Swamiji had no time to read all the things. He had access to the cosmic mind. When he went and gave talk, ideas would come from the cosmic mind, from the ancient rishis, and he would deliver. He never prepared for these talks and all of that. So that access, dynamic equilibrium with in the Manomaya Kosha level is also establishing harmony with the society is very important. So what is yajna? We have to take and give also. That's the nature's phenomenon. We have to take oxygen, give out carbon dioxide. We have to take water, see that we spend that energy in a useful way, and do exercise or whatever it is. We need to spend it. If you accumulate it, then the cholesterol will accumulate in your coronary arteries. All the problems of obesity will have. Similarly, in the mind, if you accumulate too much knowledge and don't want to give it to others, what happens? You go to lunatic asylum, you become mad. So you need to give it. So that this balance of taking and giving, we are experts in taking. Only plants alone give more than what they receive. Only plants. Rest of the people, we're all selfish. We want to take everything from nature, don't want to give it. We want to hold it, hang it on, and create problems for us. So that's why the Vedic rishis understood that yajna, sacrifice, is that we should give it back. Unless we give it back to the macrocosm and establish harmony, not only taking it. That's why the Karma Yoga, the unselfishness is God. Yajna is God. You have to give it back. Willingly or unwillingly. Initially it will be with great difficulty. I also did all my social work not with great joy, and there was some madness, but I was also aware. I also had all the weaknesses of, like all of you. I had anger, I had raga, dvesha, bhaya. I had the sex hormones, everything with me. But Swamiji's inspiration that I should do it. So I did this yajna, the social entrepreneurship yajna, of giving back to the society. And with that emerged, we hired Vivekananda. How many of you repeat Gayatri? No, yeah, a few people. Okay. Diyoyana Prajavaya. He is the Vignanamaya Atma. It's a higher faculty in us. Beyond body and mind, beyond Pranamaya, Annamaya, Pranamaya and Manamaya, we have a higher faculty. And it's true. I have experienced it, that's why I'm telling it. This He is awakened, that wisdom self, from where all the goodness, purity, everything, unselfishness, everything will come. Spontaneous. I don't have to force myself. It's not commandments, and I'm forced to do follow the commandments. It is spontaneous. You lead a sattvic life with truth, unselfish life, and helping others, and true love comes out. We can share that love with everybody. There is no temptation, no question of keeping back. Everything you want to give and share, and there is only joy. And by the way, Swamiji's message is this: we are all children of immortal bliss, Amrita said. We have this higher, and we have a lower self also, with the selfishness and all of that. That is what Sri Ramakrishna said, Kacha Ami and Pakka Ami, the lower ego and the higher ego, ripe ego and unripe ego. So ripe ego emerges from the Vijnanamaya, and everything is spontaneous. Then only you can do meditation. Before that, meditation is all hunger. Then you can turn inward and remain as some of you are Ramana Maharshi's followers. You can discover that I can be intensely working and saving the life of a patient, or working for something very important outwardly. Next moment you can withdraw and be within yourself and find the cavern where you have the joy and the peace and silence, everything. And stress in your life disappears. If I had got this, my hairs would not have turned grey, but all the stress I took. So initial work is lot of stress. Lot of stress. I had hyperactivity, psychosomatic illness. I passed through all of that. But when that's the spiritual benefit we get, when this D is awakened, when that higher faculty in us is awakened, the sleeping soul is awakened, we become rich. We become really rich. We become much richer than the billionaires. I have much greater joy than the Bill Gates, I can assure you. So that giving is possible. I'll stop at this. I will probably, maybe last one, I should show this. This is again by Swami Vivekananda. See, there are higher values of life. That's a character building is also based on higher values. Higher values in Western society is called truth, duty, goodness, and equivalent of that is Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. So, social service can be done as social entrepreneurship is like value. But what Swamiji wanted to do it as Karma Yoga, then you get the highest. If you do it, convert social entrepreneurship into real yoga, Karma Yoga, and do it completely selflessly with that, then it becomes a spiritual sadhana and you awaken your own spiritual potential. Then you can do much more service to the community, much better. Earlier, social entrepreneurship, there is also a problem. If you don't, we also don't grow with the community with which we are working. All the inner conflicts, social workers also have a lot of inner conflicts. They project their inner conflicts into community. They do more harm than good. So that we have to be very careful about that. That's why unless you have integrated personality, you have the character within and found the inner source of higher consciousness in you, you cannot really help people. Of course, outwardly at different levels of health is there. Maybe we can improve that physical health through medicine, a little bit of their nutrition. But if you want to really help others, You should also evolve yourself. Your evolution and the evolution of the people with whom you want to help, both should happen together. Otherwise, you will not be able to. Thank you. Thank you very much. Then it can transform your whole approach. How much water flows to Tamil Nadu from the Kaveri? I am a witness to how much water we are giving you. But I spend most, also of course I am the president of the organization, and I found the right people. Venkat was, when he takes care of it, I got all the good people. When my egoism disappeared and I found that I am not the doer, Divine Mother is the doer, funds are flowing. This year, without effort, we got 90 crores and we are spending. Funds are coming, right people are coming, everything good is happening. It was ego was my problem, not the others. Others didn't create problems for me. My own ego was the obstacle. I removed my egoism, my raga, dvesha, bhaya, and did yajna. With that, everything is happening.
If anyone has any question, you can raise your hand and pass the mic to you.
First of all, I want to thank you that you have shared your life journey with us. I have one question. As you mentioned, call upon that.
That's an eternal question. So for that, and that's a primordial ignorance. But the sleeping soul, the ultimate why bound itself. But there are two levels of ignorance. The primordial ignorance which makes us separate from the macrocosm as individual. But individual consciousness is pure. But further down, when it identifies with the body and mind, and gets this lower self identity, the egoism, all that which comes. Why it comes, we have no answer. We really do not know. And people, to solve that problem, Buddha and entire Christianity made life itself is suffering, and we have to get out of that suffering only by calling it anatma and then shunya. Or you have to say you are a born sinner and you have to be baptized to get out of that sin. I don't believe in all of that. One truth, I don't know why I got separated from the macrocosm. But there is an urge in me to become one with the macrocosm. Genuinely, I feel that I should become. This separation is something I don't like. I want to be free with the entire pranamaya kosha, entire life. I really feel oneness when I swim in Kaveri. I'm one with the river, one with trees, one with the entire cosmos. So that oneness, we are part of that macrocosm. That's why Purnamada Purnamidam. Purnata is completeness. We should become Purnata. But why that separation happened, I really do not know. And I am least interested in why, whether it was a mistake made by God and silly argument that why am I responsible for that and God is responsible for doing all that is a game which we do not know. We can never understand that. It's a play or whatever it is. But there is a way to get out of it and get back to that source. Get back to our true nature. Our true nature is all joyful. Life is full of joy. That is Vivekananda's message. Life is joy. And we create obstacles to that joy. So if we can remove the obstacles to that joy, we are joyful. That's our true nature. Yeah. It's okay. You're audible without the mic. Yeah.
First of all, thank you, sir, for this wonderful session. I had one doubt that how does one start with this journey of becoming connected with a true nature, or becoming one with the cosmos? What's the first step for doing that?
Yeah. Then this establishing harmony is called Ritha. In the Vedic period, one is Yajna, the concept of Yajna, one is Ritha. Ritha is establishing harmony at various levels, feeling oneness with that. And for that, they discovered that we have to awaken our higher consciousness. That is the D. So that D awakening, the famous Gayatri mantra was for that. Unfortunately, I put the blame on the Manu. Manu is the one who said Gayatri cannot be given to Shudras and women. He is the culprit. I fully blame him for that. And thanks to Arya Samaj and many other movements now, where they are giving Gayatri to women and also to the Shudras. So Gayatri mantra was basically, they were interested in the immanent aspect, the Virat. It's called Virat. The first three levels. The other two levels are transcendental reality. In the early Vedic period, we only knew about the Satya of the Virat. Then they discovered there is a higher consciousness, and that is, it is called Satyasya Satya, consciousness. So the transcendental reality became very important. And they ignored and called this Maya. It's unreal. Anything changing is also unreal. That's also Buddhist philosophy, stupid philosophy. I get very angry because world cannot be unreal. Who are we to say world is unreal? Our own projection of our mind on how we do it is our ignorance, our wrong way of seeing things. World, what it is, we do not know. It's our projection which is the harmful. It's our ignorance. We have to remove our ignorance. So it's not the ignorance there. So the Virat, once that D awakens, the gates will all open up. You saw the line? Sorry, I just closed. The boundaries between the walls, thick walls, somewhere that D opens up the gates. Each level I feel that I'm expanding myself to the microcosm. You become very, at the social level, as I said, my identity was with myself first, then my family, my mother and others, then my friends, then my organization. But it started expanding to the state, started expanding to the nation and the entire humanity. So it can expand. You can really feel that oneness. So I am a patriot. I am a strong patriot, but I do not really believe in the fundamentalist type of nationalism and all that. I am also a world citizen. I can transcend that and become world citizen also. But I am a patriot, I am at that level, and I am a devoted, I served my mother in last days and passionately. I loved my mother, I love my family, my mother and my brothers and all of that. I also love them, but everybody is important. There are different levels, but now we should not stop at only the blood relatives. That is a biological love. But true love of friendship, true love for the other partner, that is true, it should be true love. True expansion of ourselves to the other human being and expand ourselves. Swamiji was full of that love. I don't know how many of you have heard those wonderful incidents of Swamiji pacing up and down in Bangalore Medical College in the middle of the night, and the disciple asked why Swamiji felt that somewhere some suffering is going on. His cosmic mind was sensitive and he could feel the suffering of those people, and that's why he had to get up. That's the love, that is the empathy. Their hearts grew so much and identified with the cosmic mind. Their suffering was theirs, and he could send good vibrations. So that's how to do it. It's not me, but ultimately it's divine grace. I am a bhakta also. I would not say it's my effort which has brought it. It is divine grace. And in my case, the divine grace came through my guru's blessing. That's why finding a good guru to guide a spiritual guru is very, very important. But nowadays there are too many gurus and dangerous gurus also. So I would trust when the D awakens, that itself becomes our inner guru. I would trust my own inner guru much more now. And my guru always wanted, the true guru, he said, don't come to me, go to Thakur, go to find your own inner guru and discover that, don't get attached to him. He doesn't even talk to me now because I get attached to him. He wants me to discover my inner guru and get the guidance from him. So you will also discover your inner guru and He will open up the gates. All of you. I feel today, all of you have this potential, irrespective of your background. And one day, the glorious day, your day awakens and you feel that also.
When you are doing something good, there will be obviously some force against it. So when you will be having a family, there may be a lot of politicians or other pressure that you will be facing, that your family might have into threats. What is that quality that made you stick to the higher when compared to all the family and all? And the other question is, when you are moving to the conferences like World Economic Forum or some other international conferences, there might be a sticking to our mind that these are all like luxurious. And again, we need to go to, as you said, like 15 years staying in a hut. It is not easy to come from that, to make that transition. And what are the qualities that kept you stick to that particular thing?
Number one. Second is, though I was busy working, I no holiday at all. 40 years of my social work, always worked all through. And I was the only doctor, 15 years I could not go out of the hospitals. But later on I had the luxury and we have more doctors and I can have that. But constantly, my self-knowledge was also increased. That's very important. Self-knowledge is very important. And it's also how many of you have understood your personality. How many of you have read about psychology, mind? Psychology, how many of you have read? The knowledge about your own mind, your own body also is very important. I get very upset. IIT graduates, PhDs, they come and surrender to we mortals, the doctors. You do it, I don't know, you take care of my body. What a foolish idea. Why can't you understand your own body and manage it rather than depending on that's why for my own treatment and all that, I won't trust another doctor. I go and have the test and I decide myself. So you also should have some knowledge about your body, your anatomy, physiology, and about the mind. Mind is very, very important. And my guru is a master. Both the yoga psychology. Patanjali is a great yoga psychologist. Buddhist psychology is also fairly good. These are the Eastern psychologists. And the modern Western psychology, the Freud onwards. They are wonderful contributions. We should all know what are called repressions, wailing mass, how to get rid of those childhood repressions we have made, shadows they are called. Why do we become angry? It's anger on ourselves which we project on others. There are so many things I have discovered. So the purification involves understanding our unconscious mind, conscious mind. The character building is all for that. It's a very, very big event. It takes a lot of, but that strength, I had one person I had seen, that person who was transcended all that, whose day is awakened. So his image will know everything, and that chart, I call it a yantra. Any problem, any threat coming from others. Also, it's a nature. I get awards, international awards. I also get bad publicity. Somebody will write because people question, how can this fellow be unselfish? So much unselfish. There must be some selfishness in it. So they try to create some selfishness thing and then write stories about it. Doesn't matter. I used to worry about them, but now with detachment, doesn't matter at all. But also I had some inclination for name and fame and all of that. And Swamiji is merciless. No name and fame, no total unselfishness. But that comes only in the higher centralism, but it becomes spontaneous. So ultimately I would say it's my self-knowledge which I have been 45 years. My guru, first thing, when at the age of 17 I met him, he wrote those 5 lines from Chakoshas and then explained everything. And further development is 40 years of my work, building that. And I call it a yantra, and all my problems I put there, it vanishes. I call it a yantra. Yantras are meant for that, magical yantras. but it is a psychologically well-framed yantra, and you put it in the cosmic perspective. It's simple. When we know that we are part of the cosmos, all our problems disappear. Selfishness disappears, everything. But you should constantly feel that I am part of the cosmos, or at least feel you are an alien come to this earth and interacting with awareness. That's what we have to do.
Thank you so much.
The question is, as you have worked with the tribal people for 15 years, and you have mentioned it very clearly that there is no need to put them in the national mainstream. What do you mean by national mainstream? And second is, from your experience of 40 years, how fruitful internet has been in changing the lives of people?
It is absolutely very useful for technology, using it. It's a double-edged weapon. People misusing it is a different story, but internet has been very useful. The other question is about mainstream. So, so-called mainstream is, unfortunately, the mainstream concept. But unfortunately, their Hinduism is not the Hinduism which Swamiji taught. It is only in terms of the Manu. That's why rightly many people call them Manuvadis. So don't take from Manusmriti for your Hinduism. Take it from the Vedanta, from the Upanishads, from the Gita, and where everybody is equal and all of that. So for me, when I say national stream is, for them at least they have to accept Ganesh. Or Christians also convert a lot of tribals. For them is to bring them, their national mainstream is to become to the Christ mainstream, Christian mainstream. With that hope, they are liberating them, they are giving salvation to them, they do it. It's such a foolish idea. Why do tribals need Ganesha or Rama? They don't need it. They are worshipping trees, the big champak tree, which is 600 years old. They go and worship, sing and dance, and then get energized and come back. I thought initially it was a superstition and all of that. But actually, by the way, left brain, right brain, left brain is more logical, rational, aggressive, all of that. Right brain is the empathy, all the feminine qualities are there in that. So that now my right brain is developing. I feel the energy like tribals in the trees. So they are already worshipping the Madhuvakara Payate, Madhuksharanti Sindhava. The trees give us happiness. With all Rigvedic hymns, they are practitioners of that. So why do they need Rama and Ganesha or the Christ? They don't need them, or Muhammad, whoever. It's stupid that national mainstream is to bring them to the so-called our type of civilization. Culture is not right. Let them be on their own. There are sentinels now in Andaman Nicobar Islands who are the only people whom we don't have contact. There are about 100 people. I went to that island, and recently one of the Padis wanted to convert the mission. He went and he was killed by arrows. Rightly so. He deserved to be killed. But what right we have to interfere with their life? They are leading their own life. And obviously they have survived because of already establishing the harmony with the nature where they are living. If you allow them to allow it, it's fine. And nature itself is God. For me, genuinely, I have not seen an anthropomorphic God. Even Swamiji I have not seen. I have not seen Swamiji or Thakur or Ma or Rama or Krishna. But I know that it's itself, the macrocosm itself, the Virat, that's why it's called Viratopasana. The Nachiketa's second boon, very often not very well understood, was about this Viratopasana. To understand the Vaishvanara, the manifest world, we have to first let us worship the living God. That's what Swamiji said. Why worry about Brahman and all that Maya and all those unwanted things? We need to see the God in everywhere. And that is possible by awakening the being. And you see God everywhere. And that is Sri Ramakrishna's contribution also. From a Advaitic standpoint, we go to the highest point of Brahman, where non-dual state. And when you come down, you see that the steps are also made of Brahman. That is the Vijnana. So you see the manifest world is also divine. So you divinize the entire life. Really speaking, I believe in it. Everything is divine form. The chair, the table. There are different levels of divinity, existence, consciousness and bliss. Levels of happiness is also different. But they are all divine. No difference between secular and sacred. Everything is sacred. We make the distinction. Only worshipping in temples is sacred and working in the IIT is not nonsense. Everything is sacred. Every moment is that the consciousness is working, is expressing itself. So we need to have that attitude for the action. Only for monks. So I'm not that I'm saying I'm not a monk. Our ideal should be to become Rishi. I feel I am a Rishi today. The Rishis were like that. They worked with the society, lived with the society, and brought about transformation around them by practicing, getting the wisdom and transferring it. So all of you should become Rishis. Swamiji said we should have prophets also walking. I don't know, I'm yet to reach that becoming a prophet, but definitely all can become Rishis and transmit that, to live that wonderful life. Aurobindo also had this idea. He called it Gnostic beings. When all of their Vivekananda Kosha is awakened, the higher being is awakened, they are all awakened people. Probably we are heading towards from evolutionary level, from matter to prana to manomaya kosha to when Vivekananda Kosha is awakened in many other beings, they will be all spiritual beings, awakened people, awakened, they know about their Atman, and I would like to be reborn and live with such people. That's my thing. I don't want to be liberated, right? And that's also Swamiji believed in Sarvamukti. Most of our traditional ones wanted their own salvation, mukti. Swamiji said, may I be reborn again and again till the last man is liberated. Only Swamiji with that loving heart can say that. Nobody else can say that. Thank you all, and I am very happy this type of Vivekananda Center has been created and we are doing wonderful. Thanks for the founders and all of you who are continuing this. This was very much needed when the whole campus is realizing that we should have this spiritual, wonderful idealism. I'm happy you have created this in Madras IIT. I'm very proud of it, and I would love to be part of you. And whenever it's possible, I want to share and interact with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. A. Sudarshan for the enlightening talk. I am sure your vision and work will influence us very much. Now, I request Professor Uday, the Faculty Advisor of BSc IIT Madras, to share the vote of thanks.
Dr. Sudarshan, on behalf of I think everyone over here, I'd like to express heartfelt gratitude for a very, very wonderful, touching talk. Hopefully, many of us are inspired to do something different with our lives going forward. I don't want to take up much time. There is one request from my side, if it is possible for you to think of, if you could think of some way by which students of IIT could do an internship over the summer, let's say 1 month, 2 months, in the summer or the winter, with your organizations, to get an experience, hands-on experience for what it is that you do. I think an immersion experience will give insights automatically to people. So if you can suggest avenues for this, we'll be happy to transmit it further to the audience. I hope there will be at least some volunteers from the audience or something like this who would like to spend a summer or a winter. Okay, very well.
1 week is fine.
1 week is fine.
It's a package of both spiritual. You have to swim with me in the Kaveri River.
Okay.
Also see the special part.
All right.
Meditate with me.
Wonderful. Thank you once again.
I'm waiting all of you. It's a great.
BSc. I request Lalit kindly share his presentation.
IIT Madras has completed 25 years since its inception in 1997. The objective of Vivekananda Study Circle is nation building through character building, and our ideal is unselfishness is God. VSC is delighted to be mentored by monks from Ramakrishna Math since its inception. At present, Swami Vivekananda is our spiritual mentor. From 2012 to 2021, Professor Balaji guided and supported us for all our activities, and since 2021, Professor Uday is our faculty mentor. VSC activities. VSC conducts Seva activities, Sunday classes, workshops, heritage walk, and special lectures series around the year. Seva activities. We help underprivileged students from Mayur village in their studies. Every Sunday morning, our volunteers used to go to Mayur village 70 kilometers away from our campus to teach and help children in their education. We also conduct sports events and computer training classes for them. Every year, we place stalls in our campus to sell bags stitched by Mayur village women. We had also conducted trip to IITM for Mayur village children to visit IITM campus and some of our labs. During pandemic, we continued our Seva activities in virtual mode in form of online tutoring classes, drawing context, Agri-Ideathon context, and basic level programming courses, and distributed prizes among the children. Every semester, we organize Sunday classes. Every class begins with guided meditation by Swami Vivekananda and followed by lecture and discussion to reflect upon Swami Vivekananda's ideas and ancient Indian wisdom. We have unique topic for each Sunday class. We also conduct workshops on personality development by professionals. In past, we had workshops on topics like emotional intelligence and exercising enlightened leadership. We also organize special lecture series every semester. In past, we had special lectures on rural revival and technological self-reliance by Sridhar Bamboo, nation building through character building by Director Professor V. Kamakoti, and many others. Every year, we also organize heritage walk to visit places of historic importance in Chennai like Vivekananda Ilam, Ramakrishna Math, and Kapaleshwar Temple. We invite you all to join us for upcoming Sunday classes, BSc activities, and be part of our heritage walk, which we are going to organize by the end of this month. Thank you.
With this, I once again thank everyone for attending this session. We will conclude today's program with Shanti Mantra.
पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः।